What's going on, people? Welcome to the fourth episode of Hip Hop Orchestra Presents with Georgio Savidis. And in this episode, what I'm going to chat about kind of like the ups and downs of what it's like to run your own orchestra or group, how you want to put it. It's orchestra. And when I was putting this list together, I realised that, well, I kind of knew already beforehand, but it got confirmed as I wrote it down that it's going to sound weird, but the list for the negatives outweighs the positives, but the weight of the positives outweighs by far the negatives, if that makes sense, which I'll be discussing throughout this episode. And it should be a fairly short episode, but we'll see how it gets on. Kind of like to talk quite a lot. But I want to start with kind of like the positives of what it's like to run your own orchestra, starting with the performance side of things. Now, when you get the chance to perform live in front of hundreds, sometimes thousands of people, and when you hear people screaming and shouting in joy during the performance, performing each track, and afterwards, and coming up to you afterwards to say how much they loved your performance and it brought them so much happiness and joy, to me, that is like a drug. It's the best feeling ever. And it's even better because when you spend so long, behind the scenes, putting everything together, the members to scoring the music out, to arranging rehearsals, all the documents, contracts, blah, 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 in between, all that kind of loneliness really makes it all worthwhile in the end. And like I mentioned in my last episode about dyspraxia, that my sort of social skills aren't the best, but I like to kind of talk through my music, if that makes sense. And it's just an amazing drug to perform live in front of thousands of people. So that's one of the main points for me. Next point are some of the people I've met along the way, who I call my family now, because I mentioned it a few times already in other episodes. I call every member of the orchestra my family because they're such lovely people. They're stupidly talented, and we gel so well together. And one of the things I look for, which I recommend for anyone, is kind of look for people that you vibe with really well, because although you can work with really incredibly talented people, if they're not gelling with you or vibing with you, you learn as you go along. You can get a vibe straight away, but I realized through experience that working with people that you vibe with really well is so crucial to success. So look out for people that you vibe with really well. I'm going to have a few quick shout outs to people who I felt have really helped me along the way big time. And those are Rob Littlejohn from BBC, Joe Franklin from PRS, and Joseph Gray from a company that I mentioned in the first episode, who are no longer around anymore, from Somewhere Too. These few people in particular have helped me so much. And also, I want to shout out to a lot of the members of the orchestra as well, because, like I said, each one of them has brought their own way of helping me out a lot, so much. And those are Asal Vazagov, Kat Trainer, Aaliyah Weibel, Tanya Cracknell, aka the Grand Violinist. Go and check her out, she's sick. They're all sick, but go and check her out. She was actually the first ever member of the Hip Hop Orchestra. So if you don't know that, if you come across her before, the Grand Violinist, she was the very first member of the orchestra 8 years ago. So shout out to her. My boy Mehmet Rai from bass. Now Adam Kamenetsky, I actually met him through Twitter actually, while about 4-5 years ago. Now he was part of an orchestra called Sinfonia Temesa, and he was at the time he was a chair violist of this orchestra. And what I wanted to do was kind of do at the time was, I get into this at another time probably, but I wanted to do a sort of joint venture with my orchestra and his. And ever since we've met, he's become one of my best friends, because he has helped me so much in terms of organisational skills, to meeting other incredible musicians and other people and so forth. So Adam Kamenetsky, you are a legend. Estefania Manso, Christina Cooper, Joe Prescott, Johnny Yeoman, Danica Johnson, Nikki Segal, Catherine Salmon, Lisa Burry, Heather Baston, Chris Parker, Marion Hardisty, Jamie Jalil, Danny Jarrett from No Strings Attached, Hannah Chappell, and Sam and Emily Braybrook. There's just a few shout outs to the members who I love to bits, and you're all amazing. I love you to bits. Um, and now I want to kind of chat about the downs, the negatives of running on orchestra and group. Like I said earlier, though, this list is a bit longer, but the positives do outweigh by far the negatives. So, starting with though the loneliness of the whole thing. So, I'm an introvert, so I actually don't mind this. But for anyone who's looking to start their own group or business or orchestra, whatever it might be, prepare to spend a lot of time by yourself because you're going to spend a lot of time sort of socializing with people, networking, to putting everything together yourself, from the social media pages like I do to all the emails, trying to meet new people, creating content, writing all the music out to other bits in between. So prepare to spend a lot of time by yourself. But talking about content now, this is a negative about social media because I love social media. I think what you're able to put out there and showcase your work, social media is bloody amazing for the right ways. But at the same time, though, if you're not putting regular content out there, which I'm trying to do with my orchestra, people think that you're lazy or not putting enough work in. And as you know, when you're working with a lot of people, things don't always go to plan. And if you see the work that goes on behind the scenes in between events to all the recordings and filming and so forth, it's a shitload of work that goes involved. So much work, and not everything goes to plan. It doesn't. So that's one thing that does annoy me because, like I said, if you're not putting the content out there, people think you're lazy and not putting the work in. So that's one. But another thing is the overall stress of dealing with so many different things. Now, when you're working with a million different people, you're bound to deal with stress because people don't get back to you always, whether that's through meetings or sometimes even members of your own orchestra don't always get back to you on bits. I know we're all busy, but it's just that things get ridiculous sometimes, and I think that people are dropping out last minute to like other stresses like technical issues on the night or the day. Like, for instance, we work with a major urban filming company, just one thing, and they actually forgot to provide the equipment that they promised us. So things like that, it's just loads of technical issues can happen to add to the stress. And even things like what's happening now with the coronavirus, where we've had quite a lot of offers come through for other events, and then they've had to be cancelled last minute due to safety, which is obviously understandable. But it's just things always happen last minute that people don't always realise. Another thing I want to talk about is constant rejection. Now, if I tell you the amount of I want to put 2 points together in one. Actually, when I want to talk about something else. I think it's the constant rejection and false promises and lies. In fact, 3: constant rejection, false promises and lies, and people not getting back to you. Which I kind of mentioned a second ago, is if you see the amount of meetings I've had with all sorts of people, whether it's major companies to major labels such as Universal and so forth, and BBC. They approach. This is what annoys me sometimes as well, because people approach me all the time, whether it's major company labels and so forth. You arrange meetings with them, talk for ages, and then suddenly they just blank you, which is something that really annoys me because, like I said a minute ago about content and so forth, is if you're not putting the content out there or you're not working or so forth, people think you're lazy and not putting that work in. And if you see the amount of rejections I've had, or people not getting back to you, blanking me, ghosting me, these things get ridiculous. I've had meetings with all sorts of people and they say how much they love us, want to work with us, and have plans for things, and then suddenly they just blank you. So that's a big negative for me. Late nights, obviously, I'm an early bird, so for me, late nights is not a problem. But that just expect late nights of overworking yourself sometimes, and sometimes I've burnt myself out a lot of times from putting that extra work in. You know, I'm a workaholic. Just be careful of yourself sometimes. And another thing as well is kind of joint with what I mentioned a minute ago about false promises, lies, and constant rejection and so forth. Is is people actually constantly chasing people, which is an annoying thing, especially with payments involved as well. Because you work with contracts, you work with people say they're going to pay you on time, and then things don't always go to plan. I've waited months sometimes for payments, and touch wood, I've got a full-time job as a teacher, so money isn't always a problem, but it's a big problem at the same time because a lot of my guys are freelance musicians, and when people say they're going to pay you, say in a couple of weeks or a couple of days or by the end of the month, and sometimes it takes months, that pisses me right off. Um, and you just got to know how to deal with certain people, like putting in contracts to say if you're not going to pay us, say for instance at the end of the month, then we have to charge you more. We have to take it further. And in another episode, I'm gonna talk about a certain event that we had to sue actually because of that. But I'm gonna talk about that in a different episode. And when you add all these things together, it does. I can't lie, it does make you want to quit because uh, there's so many negatives that they are dealing with, so many different things and people, and it kills your creativity. Because you're thinking, what's the point of doing all this? It's just causing me a manic amount of stress. But like I said, though, the positives, the weight of the positives do by far outweigh the negatives. So you just gotta keep going. You got to learn how to deal with certain things and not be scared to talk up when you need to as well. Because I realised that I'm a very quiet guy. I'm quite a soft guy, but at the same time, when it comes to business, I've learnt to stick up for myself big time. And when I'm dealing with professional things, I switch. I turn to someone else. You have to. So what I've learnt is just to obviously stick up for yourself, be organised, be strict with certain things as well, and not let anyone take you for a fool. But what I also would recommend is if you love what you do, then do it, because I absolutely love doing everything, and don't let what I say put you off because it is amazing. Yes, it's stressful as hell and things do go wrong a lot, but they're out of your hand. As long as you're organised and you're positive and you've got things going for yourself, which we do, then go for it because it's the best thing ever in the world. It's the positives do outweigh the negatives by far, and the memories that I've gathered over the years of doing this and the people I've met, I wouldn't change it for the world. So on that note, I'm going to leave it right there. But hopefully you enjoyed that episode, and peace.